If you want us to make more stories, please subscribe.
The massive reptilian predators tore the humans apart, ripping their flesh as the humans screamed. The predators were almost 3 meters tall and had razor-sharp claws and armored scales. To them, humans were just another species to conquer. They were wrong. Captain Alret stood confidently on the bridge of his warship. He was the most feared commander in the Krolath Empire, the apex predators of the galaxy. His fleet of 100 ships, armed with plasma weapons, was approaching the human star system called Sol. The primitive apes had barely invented space travel. Enslaving them would be easy. As his ships entered the system, Alret was shocked. The humans already had colonies on several planets and moons. Their technology was better than Intel had reported. This would be a real fight. And if his fleet failed, the Krolath Empire was doomed. Alret snarled, baring his fangs. The hunt was on. Hunt! The Krolath warships descended on the human colonies like a swarm of locusts. Plasma cannons charged up with an ominous hum, targeting the settlements below. Alret watched the tactical display with a predatory grin, savoring the moment before the slaughter. He expected the primitive humans to scatter in terror, easy prey for his warriors. But as the first plasma bolts rained down, the humans fought back with a ferocity that stunned the Krolath. Missiles streaked up from hidden silos, slamming into the Krolath ships' hulls. Orbital defense platforms unleashed torrents of railgun fire, shredding through the attackers' armor. Strikecraft swarmed out to meet the invaders, weaving and dodging with incredible agility. "Commander, we're taking heavy losses," one of Alret's officers reported, panic creeping into his voice. "Their weapons are punching right through our shields." Alret snarled, his claws gouging furrows into the armrests of his command chair. These humans were far more formidable than he had anticipated. Their technology might not be as advanced, but they wielded it with deadly skill and creativity. He watched as a human fighter trailing flames and debris rammed itself into a Krolath frigate, the resulting explosion consuming both vessels. "Order the troops to land," Alret growled. "We'll crush them up close and personal." As the battle raged in space, Krolath drop pods slammed into the colony's outskirts. Armored warriors emerged, plasma rifles at the ready, hungry for the kill. But the human defenders were waiting for them. Marines in powered armor engaged the Krolath in brutal close-quarters combat, while snipers picked off the reptilian officers with pinpoint accuracy. Alret's frustration mounted as the reports flooded in. The humans were inflicting heavy casualties on his troops. He needed to understand how they were doing it, how they could be such skilled warriors. "Take prisoners," he ordered. "I want to interrogate them myself." The Krolath managed to capture a small group of human soldiers, dragging them kicking and screaming onto a transport ship. Alret strode into the holding cell, his massive frame dwarfing the captives. One of them, a male with the bearing of a leader, glared at him defiantly. "I am Lieutenant Marcus Reeves, United Earth Armed Forces," the human said, his voice steady. "That's all you're getting from me, you scaly bastard." Alret chuckled, a deep rumble in his throat. He admired this human spirit, even as he yearned to crush it. "You will tell me everything, ape," Alret hissed, leaning in close. "Your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses, or I will make you suffer as no creature has suffered before." Reeves just laughed in his face. "You have no idea what you've started," he spat. "Earth doesn't bow to invaders. We've been preparing for this day for a long time, and now that you've pissed us off, you're going to regret it." The other humans joined in, hurling insults and challenges at their captors. Alret roared in fury, lashing out with his claws. But even as the humans' blood splattered the deck, they kept laughing. "Enough! Execute them all!" Alret bellowed. As the Krolath guards dragged the prisoners away, Reeves locked eyes with Alret one last time. With a defiant grin, the human tapped a small device hidden behind his ear. A burst of static hissed from it, followed by a series of clicks and beeps. A distress signal. The human had sent a distress signal to their homeworld. Alret felt a sudden chill run down his spine. The hunt, he realized, had only just begun. Alret slammed his fist on the command console. the metal denting under the force of his blow. The losses from the initial assault on the human colonies had been far greater than he ever could have anticipated. These primitives fought with a skill and ferocity that belied their status as a fledgling spacefaring species. "Gather the remaining ships," Alret growled to his subordinates. "We will show these humans the true might of the Krolath Empire." The battered fleet regrouped, licking its wounds as it prepared for a full-scale invasion of the human homeworld. Alret would not make the same mistake of underestimating these apes again. This time, he would bring the full force of Krolath military power to bear. As the warships entered Earth's atmosphere, alarms blared across the bridge. Sensors detected a massive barrage of incoming missiles, their primitive chemical propulsion systems leaving trails of smoke in their wake. "Nuclear missiles incoming!" one of the officers shouted. "Brace for impact!" The Krolath shields, designed to withstand the heat and energy of plasma weaponry, flared to life. But as the missiles detonated against the shimmering barriers, the ships shuddered violently. Warning lights flashed red as the shields strained under the unexpected assault. "How can this be?" Alret demanded, gripping his command chair as the deck pitched beneath him. "Our shields are failing!" "Commander, we're detecting energy spikes from the surface," another officer reported, his voice trembling. "They have weapons we've never seen before." Beams of intense light lanced up from hidden batteries on the ground, slicing through the Krolath ships like a hot knife through flesh. The advanced energy weapons ignored the shields entirely, burning through hulls and vaporizing unfortunate crew members in their path. Alred felt a sinking feeling in his gut as he watched his fleet being torn apart. The humans had been holding back during the initial skirmishes. They had weapons capable of challenging even the Krolath's advanced technology. "We need to get boots on the ground," Alred said, his mind racing. "If we can capture their leaders, force them to surrender, we may still salvage this invasion." The Krolath ground forces, the pride of the Empire, made landfall in major population centers across the planet. They stormed through the streets, their plasma rifles cutting down any human foolish enough to stand in their way. But as they pushed deeper into the cities, the resistance only intensified. Human soldiers, clad in sleek, powered armor, emerged from hidden bunkers and fortified positions. They moved with a speed and agility that the bulky Krolath could not match, darting between buildings and taking potshots with devastating accuracy. Alret watched the helmet cam feeds with growing frustration as his troops were picked off one by one. The humans employed guerrilla tactics, striking hard and fast before melting away into the shadows. They seemed to have an uncanny ability to predict the Krolath's moves, always staying one step ahead. "They're adapting to our strategies," Alret muttered, his claws digging into the armrests of his chair. How can they be so flexible in their thinking? As the ground battles raged on, the humans continued to employ unconventional weapons and tactics. Swarms of drones buzzed overhead, dropping explosive payloads on Krolath positions. Hacked Krolath equipment turned against its own users, sowing chaos and confusion among the invaders. Helrit's frustration boiled over into rage as the reports of mounting losses flooded in. The humans were outmaneuvering him at every turn, both in space and on the ground. The Krolath Empire, the apex predators of the galaxy, were being beaten back by a species they had once considered little more than prey. Alret slammed his fist into the console, the metal crumpling under the force of his blow. The battle on Earth was not going as planned. The humans were proving to be far more resilient and resourceful than he had ever anticipated. Their guerrilla tactics and advanced weaponry were taking a heavy toll on his ground forces. Suddenly, an urgent transmission from the Krolath homeworld cut through the chaos of the bridge. Alret's blood ran cold as he listened to the panicked voice of the Krolath High Council. "Commander Alret, we are under attack," the counselor screamed, the sound of explosions and alarms nearly drowning out his words. "A human fleet has entered our system and is laying waste to our defenses." Alret's mind raced as he processed this shocking development. The humans had launched a counterattack on the Krolath Empire itself. It was a bold and unexpected move, one that he had not considered possible given the humans' previously unknown technological capabilities. How many ships? Alret demanded, his voice barely concealing his growing fear and rage. At least 100 warships, all equipped with the same weapons they use to defend their own world. The counselor replied, his voice trembling. They're being led by an Admiral Isaac Novak. Alret, our defenses are crumbling. We need reinforcements now. Alret's claws dug into his palms, drawing blood. He was torn between his duty to conquer Earth and his desire to save his own species from annihilation. The humans had outplayed him at every turn, and now they were threatening the very heart of the Krolath Empire. With a heavy heart, Alret made his decision. All ships prepare to withdraw from Earth, he ordered, his voice thick with barely contained rage. We must return to defend the homeworld. As the Krolath fleet disengaged from Earth and set course for their home system, Alret couldn't shake the feeling that he was falling into another human trap. His suspicions were confirmed when they arrived at the Krolath system, only to find a massive human fleet waiting for them. The human warships, sleek and deadly, had set up a blockade around the system, cutting off any chance of escape or reinforcement. Alret's fleet was caught between the hammer of the human attackers and the anvil of their own besieged homeworld. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human flagship, one of the Krolath officers reported, his voice trembling. Alret's eyes narrowed as the image of a human admiral appeared on the view screen. The man was tall and broad-shouldered, with a face etched with determination and a hint of triumph. Commander Alret, I am Admiral Isaac Novak of the United Earth Fleet, the human said, his voice calm and confident. Your invasion of our world has failed. Your forces are in disarray, and your homeworld is under our control. I demand your immediate and unconditional surrender. Alret snarled, his claws gouging deep furrows into the armrests of his command chair. The human's words were like daggers to his pride, but he could not deny the truth of them. The Krolath Empire, once the undisputed apex predators of the galaxy, had been brought to its knees by a species they had once considered nothing more than prey. The battle for Earth had been lost, and with it the future of the Krolath hung in the balance. Alret knew that he had gravely underestimated the humans, and now his species would pay the price for his hubris. As the human fleet closed in around them, weapons primed and ready, Alret faced the most difficult decision of his life. To surrender would be to admit defeat, to shatter the very foundations of Krolath society, but to fight on would be to risk the complete annihilation of his species. With a heavy heart, Alret made his choice. The fate of the Krolath Empire and the future of his people now lay in the hands of the humans they had once sought to conquer. Alret's claws twitched with barely contained rage as he stared at the view screen, Admiral Novak's face a mask of calm determination. The human admiral had outmaneuvered him at every turn, and now the Krolath Empire teetered on the brink of collapse. But Alret refused to accept defeat, his predatory instincts screaming at him to fight back. Admiral Novak, Alret growled, his voice dripping with menace, I challenge you to a duel as per the ancient traditions of the Krolath. A battle between leaders to decide the fate of our species. Do you accept? Novak's eyes narrowed, a flicker of surprise crossing his features before being replaced by a steely resolve. I accept your challenge, Commander Alret. Name the time and place. Alret bared his fangs in a savage grin. We will meet on the neutral planet of Zarthos in one Earth Day. Come alone and unarmed. We will settle this as true warriors. The human admiral nodded curtly. I will be there. As the transmission ended, Alret's bridge crew erupted into a cacophony of hisses and snarls. Commander, this is a mistake, one of his officers protested. The humans have proven themselves to be treacherous. This could be a trap. Alret silenced him with a fierce glare. I will not cower before these apes, he snarled. I'm a Krolath warrior, and I will face our enemy with honor. The journey to Zarthos was tense, the Krolath fleet maintaining a wary distance from the human ships that shadowed their every move. Alret spent the time in silent meditation, focusing his mind and body for the battle to come. When they arrived at the designated coordinates, Alret beamed down to the planet's surface alone as agreed. The landscape was a barren expanse of red sand and jagged rocks, the sky above a sickly green. And there, standing amidst the desolation, was Admiral Novak. The human was clad in a form-fitting combat suit, his posture relaxed but alert. He carried no visible weapons, but Alret knew better than to underestimate him. "I'm surprised you came alone," Alret called out as he approached, his claws flexing in anticipation. "I would have thought you'd bring an army to protect you." Novak smiled thinly. "I don't need an army to defeat you, Alret. I've been studying your kind for years, learning your weaknesses. This fight was over before it began." Alret roared in fury and charged, his massive frame covering the distance between them in seconds. But Novak was ready for him. The human ducked under Alret's slashing claws and delivered a devastating series of blows to the Krolath's joints and pressure points. Alret staggered back, his eyes widening in shock. The human moved with a speed and precision that should have been impossible for his species. He countered Alret's every attack, his strikes exploiting the weaknesses in Krolath physiology with surgical precision. The battle raged across the barren landscape, the two combatants locked in a deadly dance. Alret's strength and ferocity were met by Novak's skill and cunning, neither able to gain a decisive advantage. But as the fight wore on, Alret began to tire, his movements growing sluggish and clumsy. Novak pressed his advantage, raining down blows on the exhausted Krolath until Alret collapsed to his knees, beaten and broken. "How?" Alret gasped, his voice thick with pain and humiliation. "How could a human defeat me?" Novak stood over him, his expression grim. "We've been preparing for this war for decades," he said. "Ever since we first detected your species' aggressive expansion, we studied you, learned everything we could about your biology, your technology, your tactics, and then we developed countermeasures." The human admiral reached down and grabbed Alret by the throat, hauling him to his feet. "Your species' arrogance was your downfall," Novak said, his voice cold. "You underestimated us, thought us weak and primitive, but in doing so you sealed your own fate." Novak released his grip, and Alret slumped to the ground, defeated in body and spirit. The human towered over him, a vengeful god passing judgment on the fallen. "I'm giving you a choice, Alret," Novak said, his words ringing with finality. "Surrender unconditionally and order your forces to stand down, or refuse, and watch as we annihilate your species from existence. The Krolath Empire ends today, one way or another." Alret looked up at his conqueror, despair and rage warring in his heart. To surrender would be to admit defeat, to betray everything the Krolath stood for. But to defy the humans now would be to condemn his entire species to extinction. In that moment, Alret knew that the era of Krolath dominance had come to an end. The apex predators had been outmatched and outplayed by a species they had once considered nothing more than prey. With a shuddering breath, Alret bowed his head in submission. "I surrender," he whispered, the words tasting like ashes on his tongue. "The Krolath Empire is yours." Novak nodded solemnly, his face a mask of grim satisfaction. "A wise choice, Commander," he said. "Your species will be spared, but the Krolath will never again threaten the peace of the galaxy. That I can promise you." As Alret was led away in chains, he couldn't help but marvel at the cruel irony of fate. The Krolath had set out to conquer the humans, to enslave them and claim their world as their own. But in the end, it was the humans who had conquered them, their superior intellect and adaptability triumphing over the Krolath's brute strength and savagery. The galaxy would never be the same, Alret realized. The balance of power had shifted, and a new era had begun. An era in which the humans, once dismissed as weak and primitive, would reign supreme as the undisputed masters of the stars. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.